I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's the regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, held August 20th, 2013 at 6 p.m. at the Council Chambers Building. City Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Pratt.
Here.
Councilmember Dowling.
Here.
Councilmember Alinsky.
Here.
Councilmember Howergy.
Here.
Councilmember Garrison.
Present.
Vice Mayor Pfeiffer.
Here.
Mayor Jones.
Here. Thank you. The next item is Pledge of Allegiance, and Jake Gonzalez, would you like to lead the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item is a brief summary of current events by the Mayor, City Council, and/or City Manager. The public body does not propose, discuss, deliberate, or take legal action on any matter brought up during this summary unless the specific matter is properly noticed for legal action. Mr. Bartosh?
Madam Mayor, council members, and I'll go by order of date. We are scheduled for a visit from Secretary of State Ken Bennett on September 10th at 2:30 at our library, in case anybody wants to go by and tell him hi. Also on September 23rd at 10:30, the very successful author J.A. Jantz is going to be at the library signing books. And on October 11th, the fire department is hosting their annual open house, and it'll have an appreciation of veterans theme to it. And that's it, Madam Mayor.
Wonderful. Okay. Council members, Mr. Pratt?
Yeah, our local college has just had its first week of the fall semester, and we have a lot of new students from the city of Cottonwood. So I think we've served the city well.
Great.
And the city supports the college well. So
Great. Council members, anything else? Okay, and here's my report. Been meeting with Elva Kaur to talk about Speak Out Arizona, which is how to get citizens more engaged in government. And so we continue to work on that. I continue to work on that committee. On August 8th and 9th, the city manager and Doug Bartosh, Casey Rooney, our economic development director, and I attended Kimber Lanning's Rural Development Policy Forum, and the convention was entitled Empowering Rural Development. And as you all know, Kimber Lanning's with Local First Arizona and has talked to us, and we've all had interaction with her. One of the things that Doug and I really liked that we attended was a youth retention, building a rural succession plan strategy. And they talked about, it was a program in Yuma called MASH. I don't recall what it stood for, but it was where they got a lot of the youth in their community to work at the hospital. And since we have a hospital, that would be a perfect program for us. And Doug emailed Superintendent Ty and Barbara Dimber, who's the Verde Valley Medical Center's interim president right now, and they were all very interested in that. So possibly it will lead to a program for our youth. We also talked about building a rural succession. Oh, that was what I just talked about. We had a plenary session. We're all in this together, and Steve Ayers, the new economic development director for the town of Camp Verde, gave the presentation, and he was really good. He was just a great presenter. We also had Nikki Check, who is the mayor of Jerome and works at Yavapai College in their viticulture program. She gave a presentation and a lot of history about viticulture and a lot of history about the Verde Valley, and that was really excellent. And then our very own Casey Rooney also gave a presentation, was invited to speak. So that was all very interesting. Talked about job creation, how will we grow jobs, destination marketing, how do we get tourism to the area, and main streets and why they're important to every small town. On August 10th, we had our third annual luau at the outdoor pool, and that's a collaboration between the City Council, our Parks and Recreation Department, the Verde Valley Medical Center, and Fit Kids of Arizona. And we had 158 people attend. And Councilmember Pratt also, and his wife Teresa did come. So thank you, Councilmember Pratt. That was great to have you there. And that evening, I attended my first dive-in movie. That was so much fun. Besides the movie, you know, going like full blast, the kids are just having a ball. I mean, they are swimming and playing and yelling at each other, and it was just so much fun to watch them all. So I'm going to try another dive-in movie in the future. And then our Cottonwood Youth Advisory Commission ran the concessions booth. So that was an opportunity for them to earn a little bit of money for their programs. On August 11th, I attended the Verde Valley Humane Society's Ice Cream Social. And while I was on vacation, Tim attended a party there for the animals, and he cut the cake, I guess.
Right. Yep.
So thank you, Tim, for doing that.
My pleasure.
On the 13th, I met the Habitat for Humanity Bike and Bill group. There's like 27 young people that bike into town. They biked in from Payson that day. And what they do is they go from town to town working on housing for like Habitat for Humanity, housing for the needy. And it was really great to meet them. And I guess somebody, I don't remember who told me, but somebody said that our police department escorted them. And there were some other things that happened that the city did for them. And so I just want to thank the city manager. They commented that we're the only town that's ever done that for them. So they were very impressed with Cottonwood. On August 16th, the city manager, Casey Rooney, and Lana Tollison, we all got an opportunity to take a riverboat ride. And it all started with Cindy B of B's Bling here in Old Town. Her son works for a tour company called Desert Voyagers.
I think so.
And then also they do a lot of, I think they work with our fire departments. They do provide rescue equipment and those sorts of things. So they already had a connection to us, but that boat ride was so much fun. Have you talked to Lana yet?
She had a good time.
I think this was all mentioned to the council in a management report, and hopefully someday there'll be a time when you all can go, because it was really, it's just so beautiful and so serene and peaceful, except for the parts where you have to get out and walk. I met with Debbie Kohorshak. She's a lady here in Cottonwood to talk about fundraising for the Jordan Maynard home, and she once worked as a fundraiser for the March of Dimes. So she had some pretty good ideas. One was, I think we've done this in the community years and years ago, but like a jail and bail, where you would go pick up people that volunteer to be arrested, and then they have to bail themselves out with donations. So we did receive the Tim, huh?
You went in voluntarily, though.
Yeah.
So we did. I'm happy to report on the Brandy's restaurant, Brandy's Kitchen Spaghetti Supper. We pulled in $6,106 for Jordan Maynard's home. Now that's a lot of money from a spaghetti supper. There were a lot of folks that attended when I got there a little bit late after it started. I mean, it was just full. And so I'd like to thank Brandy's and all the other people. Pam Van Winkle organized it, and they all did such a great job. So that's something I think that we can really be proud of as a community altogether. And yesterday I spent the day with Dr. Jeremy Babendurer, who is the executive director of the Arizona SciTech Festival. And we had quite a few people that attended throughout the day. We had Linda Zanoli of the NRCD. We had 2 people from National Park Service, 1 from Arizona State Parks, Barbie Hart from the Birding Festival, Lana Tollison from the Chamber, Paul Ty from Mingus Union High School, Lenny Block with Quinces, Ralph Faubert, who is he's the VAC director, Jane Lee and Marilyn Cantaloupe, Trista McVitie from the hospital, Casey Rooney from the city. And what we're talking about is they're planning, all kinds of different cities and towns throughout Arizona are planning science fairs, but they call them SciTech. I always want to call it SkyTech for some reason. But we're just talking about being able to, well, like even at Thunder Valley Rally, you could bring science to that, like motors and things like that. One community has a chocolate festival. So they did all kinds of scientific things with chocolate. One of the universities was studying chocolate. And so there's just all kinds of things that we could connect with, water resources, irrigation. They really want to connect the STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, which is the new kind of buzzword in education. They want to connect that to the community. It's not just about kids. You know, we all need to think about it and to support the kids as they learn it. And really, I keep thinking that our future, America's future, relies on this. You know, we need the people that are going into these careers for our future. So that's my report for today. Vice Mayor?
I just want to apologize. I was supposed to be at a lot of these functions. I had RSVP'd, but on the 27th I took a slip and fall and broke a few ribs, so I was out for a couple of weeks. But I'm normally a little bit more involved than I was at that 2 weeks.
She's usually everywhere, but we've been missing you too.
Thank you.
You haven't been, especially at school functions. You have grandkids that are teachers and great-grands that are in school, so she's often at the school events. Oh, I did one school event that you were going to do for me, and then it turned out that I could do it, but because you were unable to, but we're happy you're getting better.
Me too, thank you.
All right, so the next item is call to the public. Okay, so this portion of the agenda is set aside for the public to address the council regarding an item that is not listed on the agenda for discussion. However, the council cannot engage in discussion regarding any item that is not officially listed on the agenda for discussion and/or action, and comments are limited to a 5-minute time period. And all of them seem to be about an item that is on the agenda, except for John Martinez has requested to talk about the YWAC and the MVWAC, Yavapai County Water Advisory Committee. And he is the chair of both right now.
Set this up. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. My name is John Martinez, and I live in Sedona. And I'm speaking to you tonight as the co-chair of the Yavapai Water Advisory Council and also the chair for the Middle Verde Water Advisory Council. And I'm requesting that you reconsider the vote taken a couple of weeks ago, last month, with regard to funding of the Yavapai WAC and also the Middle Verde WAC. Co-chair Steve Blair and myself received a letter from Cottonwood explaining why they would continue to fund the WAC but not the Middle Verde WAC. There were some statements made in that letter that we believe were not factual, and I want to address them. There's a famous saying that says you can have your own opinions, but you can't have your own facts. So to begin with, one of them had to do with membership. The Middle Verde WAC is not open to members other than governmental entities. And I will not have a special interest group voting on points of discussion. And if somebody told you that, they are wrong. Now this should not be confused with the fact that the Middle Verde WAC, just like the Yavapai WAC, will welcome input from non-members such as governmental entities, SRP, private citizens, private water companies. And let it be clear that while we welcome their input, we are not bound to act on any of it. Second issue is with regard to policy. It is the responsibility of the Middle Verde WAC to provide scientific and proven data regarding water. The Middle Verde WAC does not set policy for any community. The Middle Verde WAC knows very well that it is not a water provider and cannot dictate policy to any community or water provider. However, the Middle Verde WAC members recognize that policy is a reality in water management and as such deserves to be discussed, and recognizes that many policymakers are interested in understanding their options. The Middle Verde WAC is a forum to have that discussion without binding any community to anything. Policy is a very broad topic, and we intend to have discussions about policy options as well as management options. But that in no way binds any community to anything. And my favorite has to do with voting. Yes, we changed the voting rules from consensus to majority. We felt that no one city or municipality should have the ability to kill a great idea for the region or the county just because they consider that idea questionable to their city. I mean, this procedure embraces what the City Council of Cottonwood is going to be doing. I know they've got some really great agenda items to be discussed, and we know it won't be a majority vote, but yet the majority will carry the day. Media. I'm sure that some of you have gotten your information regarding the Yavapai WAC or the Middle Verde WAC from the media. But please, let's not let the media shape the discussion, because it is an important issue that there is a tendency to sensationalize the water issue and highlight controversy. We need the decision makers at the table getting their information firsthand. In either case, we will need, with regard to the WAC, the Yavapai WAC, and the Middle Verde WAC, to do a better job of communicating to the public of what is being discussed. Like I said, it is what is being discussed. We cannot set policy for any city or municipality or provider. It is not all doom and gloom as some people will write, but we know there are some sincere leaders trying to work on a difficult problem with limited resources. Perhaps the media will find a way to highlight how the communities are cooperating. It is not an instantaneous process. The process deserves a chance. The City of Cottonwood, in their vision statement, has a very important paragraph that says, we will continue to conserve, preserve, and manage our precious resources, including the Verde River and its unique riparian habitat. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And it's really hard, as you know, we can't respond. And so I'm kind of surprised you picked this to discuss it with us, but thank you for your comments. Okay, the next item is call to the public. Whoops, that was that one. Approval of minutes. I had something that I wanted to add to the minutes. Let me find that spot. Okay, on page 4 of the Cottonwood, or the July 16th meeting, down on the third to the last paragraph, it talked about Cindy stated she had asthma really bad and joined a swim team and it improved her health 100%. I think what we left out there that's very important for the minutes is that she also offered to hold a fundraiser with the Mingus Union High School swim team. So I think that that would be important to put in there. And that was the only correction that I found.
Councilmember Garrison earlier today pointed out the heading on the June 18th meeting was off too.
Okay, let me find, I didn't notice that. The heading for the June 18th meeting.
What page?
What page?
The first page. Just listed under normal business.
Okay, hang on.
Not Councilmember Garrison.
It's just that members present and absent were incorrect.
Oh. Who else was absent?
Well, Linda Norman wasn't on the council and I was, so I'm not shown as present and Linda's shown as absent, even though she's no longer a member.
You're saying June 18th?
Yes.
I don't see Linda.
That's not in my packet.
Oh, you've done it. I probably already fixed
You,
it.
okay, you corrected it when you sent us the second one. Gotcha. It's correct on ours, so.
It's okay. As long
It's
as
okay.
correct somewhere.
All right, so I'd entertain a motion. Mr. Pratt?
I move to approve the special meeting minutes of June 18th, 2013, and the regular meeting minutes of July 16th, 2013.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, and Councilmember Pratt made the motion and Councilmember Dowling seconded it, for the record. Comments regarding items listed on the agenda are limited to a 5-minute time period per speaker. Item number 7, unfinished business. Number 1 is ordinance number 598, amending the Cottonwood Municipal Water Systems rates, fees, and charges, second and final reading. Okay, Mr. Rodriguez.
Give me just a second, Mayor.
They're addictive, so.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Nice. Nice screensaver.
Okay. Mayor and Council.
There's 2 more seats up here if anyone would like to sit down. Sorry to interrupt you, Rudy. There's 4 more seats if anybody would like to sit. Or 5, we have another one there, and 6. There's just about enough for everyone, I think.
Okay, Mayor and Council, the 2 items have already been discussed once before and had been discussed at great length in a workshop some time back. We'll start off with ordinance number 598, amending water rates, charges, and fees. We're looking at the second reading on both 598 and 599. 599 is amending wastewater rates, charges, and fees. I want to touch base on a couple of items that this was not a single effort. It was quite a feat over the last 18 months. We've been meeting on and off with what we call the rate committee, consisting of a couple local residents, utility personnel, management staff, our financial advisor, and Councilmember Pratt and Mayor Jones. And we did have a county representative on occasion, and we do have him outlined in the presentation tonight. The committee was formed to review operational, capital, financial needs of both the water and wastewater facilities. The group has been instrumental in moving the rate setting process along so it would become stagnant. And the last time we'll just start into this because it talks about the items that are on here. We'll start with water and wastewater, and the reason I combine them both because they both are rate setting issues, and I wanted to touch base on the wastewater first and then go into the water section of it. Our last rate increase was October 1st, 2007, nearly 12 years ago, we've held that rate at $16.75 since then. We've been coming to council every year since then for about 5 or 6 years, and then we went ahead and stopped because it was getting frustrating to come back in and always get denied increases. So there was an effort done after 2001. Sales tax support for this utility ended July 1st, 2007. Since then, the wastewater utility has consumed over $2 million in reserves and is currently sitting with about $300,000 of cash available. As you know, we've had issues in the past that have cost us a lot more than that in single incident. So obviously we need to do something with our wastewater facility. And of course, this is not applicable to anyone outside the city limits. This is the way it breaks out for us right now. Currently, the current rates are $16.75, and there it is, the breakdown, and these are proposed rates for beginning October 1st, 2014 to 26.25. Our proposed rates, there's also issues with this. There's been only one rate increase since 2004. That's 9 years. That was in October 2010, and we only did an 8% increase. At the time, we were aware that an 8% increase was not going to be sufficient to meet our bond covenants, but we decided that we could go ahead and cut our costs enough to barely squeeze by. Unfortunately, the following year, we had some really hard freezes, and our attempts went down the tubes really quick. As we already know, we're failing to meet our bond covenants. We are all aware that we have to have a minimum of 1.35 times our debt service, and at the close of this fiscal year, we'll be well below the 1 time, which means we'll be taking out of reserves to pay for our debt service. We haven't, just a footnote, we have not defaulted on any of our payments. We always make sure we put the cash with our trustees to make sure that our debt service is paid, and then we take care of our maintenance and operations from any type of reserves that we might need. We did make minor changes when the committee met, and part of it was to assist low volume users. We raised the second tier from 1,001 to 4,000 gallons to 1,001 5,000 gallons, and what that does is basically keeps more people in that lower range. They can stay within the 5,000 gallon range. Conversely, we lowered the top end from 20,000 gallons to 15,000 gallons, and what that will do is it's going to put a little bit more pressure on those heavy users to pay the higher rates, and they will end up sharing a bigger cost because of that. We'll briefly go through these rates that we currently have up here. This is our current rate structure on your left, and then we have our proposed inside and outside rates on your right. The proposed outside rates are 30% above the inside rates. As you can see, the increase from current to the proposed rate for most residents at a 5/8 inch line is $5 a month. Okay, plus of course there's going to be the taxes that are involved in that. Of course, that also transcends throughout. The more you use, the higher the amount goes through. On our proposed rate for outside, that goes up to $12 from $18.36 to the base rate goes from $18.36 to $30.37. We have kept our resource charges the same at $5.38 for both inside and outside rates, and all of our volumes again are 30% difference between our inside and our outside rates. Here's other recommendations. The facility not only collects user fees, it also has connection charges, emergency turn-offs and turn-ons, has all kinds of metered, non-metered sprinklers. So there's a lot of other charges that are involved at the water facility, and all of them, for the most part, are affected, with exception of the deposits. Okay, our deposits for owners remains the same. However, for tenants, it does go up because we do have a high rate of skips on a lot of our tenants, and we want to go ahead and try to recover as much of that as we possibly can. want to point out a couple of recent events, and we've discussed these in the past. In June of this year, Syncora Guarantee, you may remember we had Chip Riley and Mary Rose Cato from Syncora meet with us at our last meeting. They delivered a notice of non-compliance to our trustee back in June. Subsequent to that, Standard & Poor's downgraded us from an A to a BBB plus with a negative outlook. Our trustee happens to be Bank of New York Mellon, and when they issued their letter of trustee, they forwarded another letter to us of non-compliance, basically reading us the Riot Act and what they could potentially do to get us back into compliance. And just recently, Moody's downgraded us for 2004-2006 revenue bonds from a Baa1 to a Baa2. And this is under further review pending what happens with these rates at this time, meaning that we're right on the cusp of being junk bonds as it is. And depending on what happens today, this may affect our bond rating into the future. One touch base is probably one of the biggest issues for tonight will probably be the differential rates. We surveyed 20 communities in northern Arizona. Out of our northern Arizona...
Excuse me. If we talk while he's talking, then the others can't hear. So if we could just keep it down. Is he not talking loud enough? Closer to the mic. Maybe you... What if you pick it up? Okay. There you go.
All right, I'll see if this works a little bit better. Sorry about that. The differential rates, when we compare the 20 communities that we use to go ahead and set our rate structure and such, we realize that 16% have the same rates. Of those 20 communities, we have 16% of those have the same rate inside and outside. 42% of those have differential rates. And then 42 of those will not provide services for anyone outside the corporate limits, meaning that anyone outside the corporate limits either has a well or they have to negotiate with a private water system. So as you can see, a differential rate is not something that's uncommon. As a matter of fact, it's kind of prevalent throughout the state of Arizona, and it probably is right about that same limit. So it's not something that's unusual. It is just something that traditionally it does happen. And those communities that do not have differential rates, many of them do not provide services outside the corporate limits. Wanted to spend just a little bit of time on this. We didn't just go out and say, well, we just want to go ahead and charge our neighbors an additional rate. We actually sat down and really thought about this. There are greater distances outside the corporate limits. It's actually further from the corporate limits to the farthest edge of the villages than it is from our water utility to the furthest edges of the corporate limit. We have to service their wells and pumps and equipment just as much, if sometimes even more, than we do our corporate limit lines. The terrain in much of the villages is very different than that inside the corporate limits, and unfortunately causes us a little bit more to repair. Outside the corporate limits in the villages, traditionally terrain is very hilly, which also causes us a lot of grief when it comes to repair. The Cottonwood Municipal Water Utility is a public utility, and it's owned by the citizens of Cottonwood, and we're responsible for anything that happens to the system, whether it's inside or outside. We also carry any liability if there's any issues outside of the corporate boundaries. The city of Cottonwood has to bear that responsibility, and thus the citizens of Cottonwood are the ones that also have to take care of any new debt or any new infrastructure. Inside the city, about 70% of our distribution system is gravity fed versus booster pumps that means a lot of additional costs out in the villages. There's significantly less per account out there on the villages inside the city limits just because everything is gravity fed. That means we have to have less wells, I mean not wells, but pumps, pressure pumps and boosters to go out there and get those systems out and running. Approximately 60% of the leaks we repair are in the county, mainly in the villages. Since the Verde Santa Fe is a relatively new system, the staff has to deal with 3 32-volt direct bury APS lines that are joint trenched with water lines anytime we have to go out into the villages.
You said 3,200, did you mean 7,200?
7,200 volt, I'm sorry. 3 7,200 volt lines. And that's a very dangerous situation for our staff to go out and work on. I know that it was not the doing of the citizens out there in the villages, but nonetheless, it's something that we have to deal with. The meters in the villages are primarily in small, overgrown backyard easements, which makes the reading a little bit difficult. In town, for the most part, we do have alleyways, and most of the lines are in alleyways. There's 14 small wells outside the corporate limits, as opposed to 7 inside the corporate limits, and all of them have to be monitored on a daily basis, regardless of their size. Because we have so many outside wells, we also have 13 arsenic systems outside the corporate limits with only 7 inside, and those too have to be monitored on a regular basis in order to make sure that they comply with arsenic standards. The leak repair figures outside the corporate limits are very high, and they were very high until we invested large sums of money for new pumps and variable speed controllers in the villages to reduce pressure and reduce also the associated water hammer, which was causing a lot of wreaking a lot of havoc in our lines, but just because of sudden raise in pressure and sudden stop, go ahead and blow some lines out. As you may recall, Council, recently a couple of years ago, we bought Quail Canyon Water System to the tune of nearly $890,000. That was purchased specifically to service Verde Village 6 and 7. Since then, we've started to put some money into the system to make sure the connection gets done properly, and that's about $200,000 to run those lines, again, specifically for Verde Village 6 and 7. Predominantly, a lot of the calls I've gotten over the issues with these water rates, most of the people I've talked to have not even bothered to look at a lot of these documentation. For that reason, I decided to go ahead and post those resources up there. They've been posted twice on our Facebook page, and it's also posted on our website. I'm going ahead and I'm
microphone. Microphone.
Oh,
sorry.
Most people that have called me have not even looked at these resources, and that's one of the reasons I'm putting them up there. They're also been posted twice on our Facebook account, and they're currently on our website. They'll be transferred over to the water section of the website once these hearings are taken care of. Wanted to also touch base also on the water rate committee, because another comment that has come across my desk is that the county people had no representation. Well, when I started going down the list of all the individuals that we had on that water rate committee, we did ask our county supervisor to provide us with a couple of local residents. He gave us Chris Morin. Her name's up there. She attended a few of the meetings, and then it made it a little bit difficult for her to attend. We did have a couple local citizens. Our mayor and our council member Pratt were there. We had 2 local citizens. We have one of them with us. No. Anyways, Jake is here. Ed Kyler was here the last time we had meetings. City staff, and of course our financial advisor, who is here today, Grant Hamill. If you have any questions for him, he'll be more than happy to talk about the bonds and the requirements that we have. When I started looking at all the representations that we had 35% of these people live inside the limits, 47 live in the county. And just 18%, which is about 2 of them, are the only ones that don't live in the area. So there was plenty of county representation just from our own employees alone. With that being said, I'll go ahead and entertain any questions from council.
Any questions, council? Mr. Pratt?
I just had one comment. Again, I didn't see it mentioned. We did spend a fair amount of money putting fire hydrants outside of the city limits for people. And, that's another cost and another service the city provided to those folks.
Certainly, that's something we've done both inside and outside the corporate limits. We had quite a bit of fire hydrants already inside the corporate limits. We continue to do that, and we'll continue to add some more fire hydrants both inside and outside the corporate limits where we see that they're needed.
And I would add that private water companies are not required by state law to put fire hydrants in, and that is why so many areas in the Verde Village have no fire hydrants, because private water companies don't have to do that. So it ends up when you have firefighting, you've got a lot of tankers running water, you used your pond for a while. So it's quite a challenge for communities with private companies because they don't get the water hydrants that they need for adequate fire protection. So we were glad to add some and help out with that.
And Madam Mayor, and Mr. Luter may correct me on this, but I believe we have installed either 13 or 15 new fire hydrants.
I think it was 13.
Was it 13?
Was it 13?
That's the last number I recall.
And is Mr. Luter's...
That's just in the Verde Villages.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Are there any other comments, Mr. Howdigi?
I'd just like to comment, as Mr. Pratt always does right now. We've talked here about the reasons for the differential rate, and what I see when we talk about the distance to go out to Verde Village, and we talk about the terrain and some of the difficulties working out there, the way I see that I see that as the price of doing business. When you're a businessman, you take the good, the bad, and the ugly. Not every job is difficult. Not every job is terribly difficult. So to me, a lot of these reasons, and being in a business myself, it's just the price of doing business. You take the good and the bad. Some jobs take you longer and some jobs don't. I don't see it as a reason for having differential rates myself. And I understand the need to raise the water rates. I would just like to see the water rates to be the same across the board. I mean, it would go up in the city slightly, and it would go down outside the city, but there's no loss of revenue. I'd rather see that than what we have now, because I do feel we're creating we're distinguishing between inside the city and out, and I'm not comfortable with that. So my feelings are, and I'd like to hear some discussion on that, on having the rates the same across the board.
I'll tackle it.
Okay, Mr. Garrison.
One of the things that kept being brought up at the last hearing was it's all the same water. We're in the same aquifer. I only live across a boundary. When you're buying water service, you're not buying water. You're buying the privilege of having water delivered to you. That comes with a cost. And the cost associated with delivering that water should be subjected to the individuals that have that cost associated with them. When the city ended up buying these systems, there was 5 rates. Each of those rates were different for those areas because the cost of delivering service to those areas was different. The city bought them all, brought them all in-house, and mistakenly made them all a consistent rate fee, which put a large burden on the people that lived on a system that didn't require a lot of maintenance and a lot of issues and a lot of regeneration, a lot of improvements. It was borne by those people, even though the service and the money was going outside that area. So having inconsistent rates really has more to do with the cost of providing service to you where you live. It's the same thing right now where I live. My taxes are different than the people who live 5 doors down because they live on the other side of the city line. They pay different tax rate than I do on my house. It's where you live. It's all place. So while I'm not real happy about it, and I'm getting most of my complaints that I'm receiving are about the inconsistent rates, as far as I'm concerned, it's a cost of doing business, as you said. And if you live in an area that costs more to provide that service, then that area should be burdened with that cost of higher service. It shouldn't be laid on me, who took over the responsibility of providing you that service. As was brought up by Councilmember Pratt, is before the city bought that system, there was one standpipe in the Verde Villages, one standpipe. If your fire rate for your insurance was set by tankers coming into Cottonwood, tying onto the Cottonwood system and trucking water to your house. That's how your insurance rates were set. By the city going in, taking over responsibility of that system, putting in arsenic abatement, putting in fire suppression systems, by doing all these upgrades, making it a more reliable system, your fire rates are going to go down because you now have a system out there that's capable of providing your fire services better protection. So you'll see a benefit on your insurance side, but you're going to pay it higher in the water side because the cost of providing that service to you has to be borne somewhere. So that's where I'm going to stand on the differential rates. I'm not happy about it. But as you said, if we were to throw it all back in the same pool again, we're going to be putting a much higher burden on the residents of Cottonwood who live on a system already that's capable of taking care of those needs without a whole lot of new infrastructure and new costs being associated with providing that service.
Vice Mayor?
Mr. Garrison brought up the insurance issue, and I was an insurance agent and still am for over 20 years. And I wrote a whole lot of homeowners insurance. And the further you are from a fire hydrant, the more your insurance is, the higher the rate is. So the fire hydrants definitely do bring down rates for homeowners in any area, whether it's the city limits or outside the city limits. But having those fire hydrants does make anywhere from 1 to 2 to 3 points difference on your insurance, depending on how many feet you are from fire hydrants. So it definitely does. They should see a difference in their insurance. If they don't, they should call their insurance company and find out why.
Any comments? Mr. Elinsky?
I just would agree with Mr. Garrison that I'm not happy about the differential rates. If it were a perfect world, we wouldn't have to charge them, but we are running this utility as a business, and after looking at all the facts, I understand the reasons why we really do need to have differential rates because of the cost of providing service outside the city limits. I am comfortable with what we're doing. I do understand the hardship that's associated with it, but I believe this is the responsible thing to do, and I stand by it. And I would also add that Mr. Garrison said that we're not paying for water yet. We're just paying for the transmission of water, and that's an important thing to consider. And the future of water is frightening. I mean, it really is frightening. And I think that I'll share just a little anecdote. I don't normally do this, but the night of the first reading, the morning of the first reading, my work takes me out of town a lot. So that morning when we had the first reading, I was in Globe, Arizona, not too far from here. And I went to make coffee in the morning and turned the tap on, and air came out. And I work in Globe kind of a lot, so I'm prepared because it's happened twice before to me in Globe. So I always keep a little extra water with me, so in case that happens, I can still have my morning coffee, which is critical. Anyway, it's just, we have a good system here. We've been running it very well. We've been struggling with raising the rates for years and years, really ever since the system was purchased. This is just a hard reality that we have to face. We put it off because of the economy, for a lot of other reasons, but I apologize for the hardship, but I've looked at all the facts and I've studied this, and I'm comfortable with the direction that I believe we're going.
And okay, council get another chance to, can we maybe listen to the residents and then comment
I
again?
just have, it's not a comment, just a
Okay.
question. Okay. It just crossed my mind here. If the cost of repairs and travel and so on and so forth are going out into the villages is 60% higher than in the city, then their rates are at 30% higher. Can someone explain that to me?
Say it again? That it was...
The cost is at 16%, but the rates, according to the new schedule, is about 30% higher than they were.
Well, the thing is here, the distances are greater on that side of it too, but we're not going to charge 100% difference in the rates either. You know, what we did was we went ahead and looked around and tried to keep it roughly where we thought that this thing should be. 60% we don't think we didn't think about going 60%.
No,
but the thing is that we didn't look
I think
at
you
going
misunderstood
60%.
It's been stated that the cost of going out to Verde Village and making the repairs and traveling the terrain and checking the meters is 16%, not 60. I'm hearing 60 from you. Maybe I'm hearing wrong. 16% higher than in the city of Cottonwood?
60%. It's 60% higher. About 60% of the leak repairs are outside in the county. Okay?
Okay, I'm not talking about
And then
this.
I'm not sure where, I'm trying to find where the 16% came from.
Is that the pie chart with 42, 42, and 16? Is that what you're referring to?
No.
I'm not sure where your 16%
It's from a statement that going out of the city limits actually is costing the city 16% more than dealing with similar problems, leaks and repairs inside the city, that it's 16% higher.
Could you please point out where that number came from? Because I'm not sure where you're getting it from.
Well, okay, if I'm wrong, that's fine, but I think I heard it from you. Now, maybe I didn't, you know.
Well, I guess that's one of the reasons I have individuals here. Roger, do you have an idea of what percentage increase, how much more expensive it is to go outside the city limits for repairs?
30% is a very good number, somewhere between 28 and 29%.
Okay. Well, then somewhere along the line, I lost track of that because I heard different, so.
Okay, well,
16 and 60 can be sound similar too.
Yeah, with all due respect, I don't know, but if you're more than welcome to give me a call.
Well, it's just a question that crossed my mind with those figures right there.
Okay.
Okay, so can we have...
If you don't mind, I'd like to have... Where'd you go?
Okay.
He just stepped out the front for a
he just
second.
slipped out. Okay. I wanted Grant Hamill to kind of give you a word, just give you a few words of...
So somebody could let him know that we need him right now. Maybe he can come back.
Available. I was hoping to catch him before he left, so, oops.
I think he got a phone call.
Well, in the meantime, do you have any other questions that you think that I could try to help or answer?
Personally, I stand with, I agree with Councilman Alinsky and Councilman Garrison. It's a really hard thing to do. This is a really tough place we're in, but I think it's the right thing to do for the city of Cottonwood, the city of Cottonwood citizens, and our water system.
Madam Mayor, if you want to go ahead and start calling up other citizens, we can fit Grant in.
Could we please? Okay, so it's time now to allow the public to speak. And I would just like to remind everyone that of the 3 R's, I always say respect for self, respect for others, and responsible for all your actions. When we have hot button issues, sometimes it's easy to get upset, but we'll be respectful of you, and we expect you to be respectful of us.
Mayor?
Yes.
If you'll indulge me for just a second. Ms. Rosen wanted to speak first. I believe she
Yeah, I just started that.
That would be fine if you'd like to. You were actually the first on my list, so I was going to anyway.
Is that all right with you, Madam Mayor?
So maybe, do you have...
Here he comes.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
Excuse me, did you say?
Yes, please. Thank you. We have a little bit of confusion going on here. I apologize.
I think we're fine.
Well, Madam Mayor and Madam Vice Mayor and council members, here we are again after August the 6th. And I want to let you know that I do take in good faith and with good will that when I brought up in my queries whether this was in fact a done deal, and in a sense a waste of our time because as a comment was overheard, these are just some old codgers spouting. I choose not to go that way. I take your comments and your comments, Council Member Timolinsky, in good faith. First, let me say who I am. I'm Dr. Roshan Bilamoria, and I live in Verde Villages 8. So your responses to my queries on August 6th was, no, we have spent a lot of time on this, but this is not a done deal, and that we do take the comments and concerns raised seriously and under advisement. So I will accept that and hope that you do before each one of you will cast a very solemn and consequential vote this evening, as you already know. By the way, I am a public speaker, so my remarks are going to be under 5 minutes. In good faith, I too have studied this report that has been put out, which carries Mr. Rodriguez's signature, and as you know, has your mayor and Mr. Pratt and several of the senior staff's names in contributing. What is interesting are the appendices, which were referred to in terms of the repeated notices of non-compliance of the covenant of meeting the debt ratio, meaning that this city council and the city management, for all the reasons that you may consider justifiable, chose not to honor the debt ratio. And finally, the last notice, as you know, and is in the appendix, by the way, this is commendably on the website. And I have studied and scrutinized every single page, and I will be referring to it. So I'm glad it's part of the public record. So perhaps you probably know it all by heart by now. But when you get a notice of non-compliance for 3 years in a row, and then finally are told that there's an event of default that will occur within 30 days of the last written notice, which makes it July 25th, unless, of course, this can be remedied. I understand the report, I understand the urgency, and I also understand the time frames in which we received your notice of intent to raise rates, differential as they are. So we have the summer with the time frame of the urgency of your carrying fiduciary responsibility and accountability to the bondholders. That is yours, as has been actually mentioned in the report, as well as what we have here. So now, I've had a 40-year career, actually more than that, in conflict mediation and win-win solutions, because that's the only way we're going to be able to go forward, no matter which way we cut this pie. So I do have 3 recommendations. I believe they're reasonable, and I believe they meet your needs of urgency and of raising rates, of raising revenue, but also take into account some of the needs and concerns that you yourself are aware of. And I'm sure have had sleepless nights over, or at least I hope you have. So the first one is the rate committee. Now, those of you who know this report will look in the Standard & Poor's appendix, page 35 and 36, where it is stated that management is planning on scheduling to meet regularly on rate issues as well as report to council. This was said on June 2013. Despite what dear Mr. Rodriguez has said, council members, staff members are not independent advisors. They cannot be. They are salaried employees of the city. So, the former water committee There's only one recommendation that was made that was against everything else that was said, as you know, on August 6th. I'm sorry, I've run out of time. Would you like me to stop?
Well, I think so. Let's go ahead and go back.
I'll quickly wrap it up.
So that everybody else can get their chance.
May I just wrap up?
Please, quickly.
Let the rate committee going forward represent independent advisors from the 3 outlying areas. Make sure that based on what you yourself said about management cutting expenditures, you've made an assurance to the bond agency, show us proof of that, and make sure that you have at least an annual financial report that all of us can see, not in terms of projections. I will wind up, madam. Not only in terms of large buckets of revenues and large bucket of expenses. It is frightening that out of $5-some million of revenue, 1.9 goes to personnel. Very last recommendation, keep the base charge non-differential. That is on page 21 of the report. Go ahead with the differential rates for volume charge, but increase the tier from 5 to 7,000. Move it forward to 2014. That is not unreasonable. There's an ill wind blowing because of this around this valley. Turns out it's across the state. It's already spread. That does not bode well for any of us. We're all in the same boat. We'll either sink or swim together. I do hope that even though you may feel you've made up your minds, that you will pay heed to what is being said this evening. Thank you. Thank you for your consideration, madam. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. We appreciate yours. Bill?
Mayor, but if you don't mind, if
yes.
you could get Grant to speak a little bit concerning where we're at. Thank you.
Yes. So if you would introduce yourself to the public, please.
Members of the council, my name is Grant Hamill. I'm a managing director with Stiefel Nicholas.
Microphone.
I'm sorry. I'm not as tall as Rudy, but I'll pick up the microphone.
Never bothers me.
I'm Grant Hamill, managing director with Stiefel Nicholas, and I've been proud to serve the community as an advisor on your capital debt financings for over 20 years. I would like to just add, Madam Mayor and the council, to the discussion that when a municipality or a school district or a state agency issues bonds in the public markets, they enter into a variety of what are called covenants to the bondholders. They are the investors of the bonds. They, in effect, are lending money to the community. And when a municipality issues revenue bonds, one of the very key covenants that Mr. Rodriguez mentioned in his presentation is a covenant that the city will do everything in its power to maintain rates and charges to be able to maintain net revenues at a level equal to a multiple of the debt service due on the revenue bonds. In the city of Cottonwood's case, that multiple is 1.35 times. So from a financial standpoint, it's pretty imperative that the council take steps to ensure that net system revenues are going to equal a minimum of that coverage ratio, or it faces the prospect of further downgrades to its credit rating, which are currently investment grade ratings, but could very easily fall below the triple B rating into the so-called non-investment grade categories. So I would just like to stress the importance of the council taking steps to ensure that it honors these rate covenants that were entered into with bond investors, because unfortunately what that means, if there's a technical default with regards to these bonds or a continuation of a technical default, it could very adversely impact the city's ability in the future to access the capital markets. And with that, I'd be very happy to respond to any questions from council.
Questions? I think we had the folks from, let's see, what is the name of
Syncora.
Syncora were here at the hearing,
right.
The actual hearing. And so they did explain in pretty good detail.
Right. Now, they're, Madam Mayor, just to be clear, they're represent an insurance company that insured the debt service of the bonds. They are not the credit rating agencies
I realize that
Mr. Rodriguez mentioned in his report.
But they did explain things pretty well all around.
Yeah, yeah.
From all aspects of the bonds, the responsibilities, and and all of that. So, any questions from members of the public for Mr. Hamill? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Bill Gabint.
Madam Mayor, Assistant Mayor, and Council. My name is Bill Jabot. I happen to live in Verde, Santa Fe, and I'm one of those people that your gentleman referred to earlier that didn't look up all this material. I've gotten quite an education tonight, and I appreciate it. But what I've learned tonight, he refers to the other Northern Arizona communities and having the separate sets of rates. He's talking about some of the communities don't service water or sewage outside of their boundaries, their corporate limits. But Cottonwood, to my knowledge, my limited knowledge, has gone out and bought a couple of water companies, and you've tried to buy a sewage company, and I wish you would buy the one in Verde, Santa Fe, because your rates are a lot cheaper than what we pay out there for sewage. But sticking with the water, which is what I want to talk about, if listening tonight and you have a lot of expenses and whatnot and upgrades to the villages, that has not been the case at Verde Santa Fe. And let me be clear, I'm speaking as an individual, I'm not speaking as a representative of them. But that's a relatively new water company. It's got your arsenic removal, it's got your wells, it's got your tanks. It's got a relatively new infrastructure piping to deliver the water to the residents. Sometimes it's delivered with too much pressure, but so be it. I'm wondering, it's probably too late in the game, but it sounds like you really needed at least 3 tiers. One in the city, one for the villages, and one for Verde Santa Fe, because I don't think we should be lumped with them in terms of your rates. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Jerry Fisher.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Vice Mayor, and City Manager. Congratulations on your pay raise.
Thank you.
I was at the last meeting, and what I just heard here tonight, now, had Verde Santa Fe and Verde Villages been annexed into the city, would we be only getting a $5 water rate increase? Would we? But because we didn't get annexed, now we're going to pay through the nose for it? And the guy from Syncora, Cliff, he said how they loved Cottonwood. I asked him where he was staying here. He said, we're not staying here. He said, we're staying at the Marriott in Flagstaff. That's how much he loved Cottonwood. Okay. Tomorrow, are you going to vote tonight on the second hearing? Sounds like you just about got your mind made up.
It's on the agenda.
Tomorrow, we're going to Flagstaff and go shopping. All my motorcycle friends from outside of Cottonwood, we're not coming here for the rally. We're going to either Flagstaff or Payson. Okay? My daughter in Boise, they're coming down next month. They're not coming here. We're going to stay in Flagstaff with them. We're going to spend our money out of this town if you go through with this 2-tier thing. Okay? Thank you for an opportunity to speak.
Thank you for your comments.
Do the right thing.
That's what we're trying to do. Okay, Robert Dragnoff.
Mayor and Council, do you want me to respond to
yes,
these
please.
now or
go ahead.
all as we go along?
Go ahead.
These are starting to get a little bit lengthy. I just wanted to touch base just on a couple of these things. I'm sorry. First of all, this is the first time we get a letter of non-compliance. We haven't gotten it three times. This is the first time we've gotten a letter of non-compliance. Over the last, since we bought the water companies, I communicate with both Standard & Poor's and with Moody's on a fairly regular basis, and I think Corey and Mary Rose Cato mentioned that a number of times. because we always keep in touch, because we want to keep in touch. We want to inform them of what's going on. So just a correction there that this is the first time we've actually received a letter of noncompliance. Let's see. As far as audits are concerned, Council is well aware we have about 10 years worth of audits on our website, and we will continue to post both our single audit and our regular audits on our website. All the full documents are there and available for anyone. As a matter of fact, it sometimes becomes a double-edged sword for us. But we will still continue to comply with that. Just a side note, as far as the rate increases, as an example, the wastewater that we've gone nearly 12 years without a rate increase. Council had consciously done that for many reasons, and the primary was to make it easier on our citizens. Also, that's one of the reasons we have discussed. If you may recall, it took us nearly 2 years to actually adopt a rate increase in 2010. It began in 2008. And one of the reasons was because of the economy, and it seems like those kind of things seem to sometimes be forgotten. The council consciously made the decision not to raise rates and deal with bondholders so that we could take it easy on our citizens. Verde Santa Fe, on the other hand, yes, it's a nice system, it's a nice neighborhood, but it was a city who came in when they acquired that company who made some major upgrades on it to make it what it is today, including the arsenic system they have was put in by our utility people.
Also, if you remember, we spent about $225,000. The community of Verde Santa Fe only had one well. If that well went down, they would have no water. Our utility looked at that, and we went right in with capital funds that we borrowed and we're still paying for. And we spent $225,000 or thereabouts to make another well in the community potable, so that if well 1 goes down, they have another supply. Otherwise, there was no water for over 1,000 people.
Correct. As far as the annexation issue, if a section of town becomes annexed into the city, yes, they will go to the in corporate limit rates. However, that will actually make a modification to how we do our calculations for the following year. So we will honor that any annexation that comes in, but again, they will be included in part of the calculation for the following year, which may alter how we deal with our rates. And as far as Syncora, both Corey and Mary also mentioned to me that one of the reasons they were staying in Flagstaff, because I asked them the same question, because I wanted them to spend their money in Cottonwood, was they had an early flight the following morning, and they'd much rather drive up there and spend the night there than to try to get up early in the morning and try to catch an early flight back to New York. So just want to give you a heads up, and I'll answer these as they come along.
Thank you. Thank you. Roger? Mr. Daniel?
Ladies and gentlemen, council members, after sitting here tonight and hearing, I believe the vote's already been taken. And I got to commend this one gentleman here for taking the stand that there should only be one rate. And that one rate should be fair to everybody. I have fire hydrants out there in Verde Santa Fe or Monte. We've got paved streets out there. I don't think there should be a 30% increase in dealing with any problems out there. The bond issue, I'm kind of going to blame some of this on the council and past councils for not being an active council and taking care of the bond issue. But today, you guys have decided how we can do it. Let's have 2 rates. The people that live in town can pay the least amount, but yet we've heard how some of the areas are rough. There's hills there, and I suppose there's rocks there, just like all the other areas. So it's kind of hard for me to accept a higher rate. The bond rating is another one. How about impact fees for people inside the city limits? I couldn't find that at any of the county offices. I pay impact fees for the house I built. By the time you get done nickel and diming it, it's well over $5,000 in impact fees if you have a house built. Gosh, who wants to pay those fees on top of a house? I seriously think that we need to set this aside and the council take a more active role in making the bonds worth being bonds and take a better role at taking care of business. Because if you read the paper, what did we do? We had a rate increase put in the paper. We got a bonus of over $1 million brought in taxes, and the first thing we do is start with merit pay raises for the good old boys. Now, I'm sick and tired of moving somewhere and then having to get caught up. The caught up should have started when the bond issue was an issue. We should have had periodic pay raises in the water rates, and we could have stayed away from a two-tiered system. This might be enough to keep some retirees from coming to Arizona. Besides the water rate increase, we have to look at what APS is doing to the solar energy. And some of us are on fixed incomes. And I realize it doesn't affect maybe you, but I would think you would have a set of brains, each and every one, to see what's going on here. I know it's a tough job, but we all have a stake in this, and you want to talk about growing and doing stuff in the rural areas, or is that just talk to get more money out of my checking account? Thank you.
Okay, Joanne Wakefield from Verde Village. Oh, Rudy, excuse me, did you want to,
I'm talking now, we'll just go ahead and wait, and he can text me this.
Okay.
Okay, a lot of, first, the council members.
Microphone.
A lot of what I wanted to say has been said. I agree with a lot of it. I have talked to a lot of people in the Verde Villages this week. I wish you could have been with me and heard the comments. Some are even considering moving out of the city. They want nothing to do with it. And one of the things I want to stress to the city council, if I can find my papers here, I think you're forgetting that you have an awful lot of retired people that are supporting you. I'd say about 50 to 75%. Whenever you go in the restaurants, what do you see? It's retired people. Almost all the stores you go into is pretty much retired people. But I think you're forgetting, they live on fixed incomes. The federal government is already going to hit retired people hard on Medicare. And with these water rates, I feel that you went into it with your eyes wide open, or you should have. Maybe you didn't. But working with seniors for a good percent of my life, I know that a lot of them are living on $1,000 or maybe less. And you're wanting to put a higher burden on them. I do not think it's fair. I do think that the rates ought to be the same for the city and the non-city. And as far as the Verde Village, the part I live in, there is easements. You can access the meters very easily. But here's one thing we've noticed, and a neighbor checked it. If he goes out and he went out and put a little dirt on his meter, when they came, they bypassed it and went on down the street. Now that is not right. And there was no reason for them not to be able to read that meter. And I think there is a lot that you need to look at. And like I say, we have continually supported the city with our shopping and stuff. I agree with the gentleman that just spoke. And I'd say 50% of the people I've talked to this week said we will go to Prescott Valley, Flagstaff, Camp Verde. We're tired of it. And I think you're going to see it happen a lot. And I've met some people that I hadn't met before. And they brought up the fact of all the things that you said the city provided to us, like airport and that. Most of us, maybe 5%, use an airport. We have been more or less banned from the recreation center with the higher fees that you've charged. And I think you're doing the city a disaster by not giving the same fees to everybody here in the Verde Valley to use that recreation center instead of just your city. And it's just not fair what is happening. But I see on the water, oh, and another thing, what that was brought up very consistently, is the amount of money the city is spending on non-essential things. Okay, it's brought up $200,000 for girls and boys club. You have rooms out here in the recreation center. What's wrong with using them? The money don't need to be spent outside. I know the area I come from, we built a senior center. We did not get no taxpayers' dollars. We went to our contractors, the people in the town. We built a senior center, a very successful one. But going in and remodeling these old buildings and spending thousands of dollars is ridiculous. And then you're going to turn around and charge us all more for our water. And I might say it's undrinkable water. We cannot drink it. We have to buy our water. But you add on another $30, $40 that we're having to pay to buy water. It says ours is undrinkable. You cannot use it in a humidifier. It covers your walls completely with white residue. And for people that have health problems, that is completely unheard of as far as I'm concerned. On the downgrade on the bonds, I do not understand why they were not taken care of 3 years ago. I think that is a real downfall for the city council. And then all of a sudden you decide, hey, we're in trouble. Let's put the burden of the rates on the Verde Villages and Verde Santa Fe. That is what I have heard over and over and over. And I hate to say it, but I sort of believe it's true.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate that.
Please consider the people with the low incomes and the retired people that you're going to force out of this city. And believe me, it's coming.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your comments. Stephen Kling.
Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. Okay, I guess I'll try this. Is that good? Okay. You know, I asked myself the question tonight, why is there such significant opposition to this differentiated rate on the part of people who live outside the city? And I hate to say this to you, it's the chickens coming home to roost. You are a council that is elected by the people of Cottonwood. We have no voice in that election. And yet you are owners of the most significant resource in the valley, the water. Why are the chickens coming home to roost? Because from day one, customers outside of Cottonwood have felt that they are not represented. Is there a water commission like a Parks and Rec commission? No. Are we ever given insight into the problems, advantages, disadvantages of your owning this system and what you have to deal with in the way of bond compliance? No, we don't know. What happened was 9 years after you made these purchases, having never taken us into your confidence, you've decided you should differentiate rates. All respect to Mr. Rodriguez, there is nothing that has been said tonight that can't be challenged. I don't want to get too far down in the weeds, but that little pie chart where he showed that people outside of a city are paying a differentiated rate. I don't know. Do those cities actually own the water company? Or are those rates subject to approval by the Arizona Corporation Commission, which would have done due diligence about, well, yes, there should be a differentiated rate, but we have to take your word for that because the Arizona, you own those companies. I don't know how many cities own the companies where they have established a differentiated rate. So there's virtually nothing that has been said in justification for this that can't be challenged. That's a shame. We don't have confidence in you. And the only time we get to speak on an issue that touches us directly and maybe have your ears, maybe, is a circumstance like this or annexation. Now, I'm sure that you're all good people and certainly have taken the interest of Cottonwood to heart. But I'm not sure that you have taken to heart the circumstance of all your customers, because you have never gained our confidence. That's unfortunate, because we are neighbors. We do have constant interaction with Cottonwood. We make contributions to Cottonwood in many ways. We shouldn't have to shoot ourselves in the toe in order to get the message across to you who represent the people who live in Cottonwood. Thank you for letting us speak.
Thank you very much. Rudy, did you have any responses?
Well, apologize to Dan for getting up on this one, but we're talking the comment about this last one about the rates not being posted. As those of you who have looked at the rate report, does show which communities that we were polled are privately owned or publicly owned, and also shows a differential in the rates. Traditionally, if you take, for example, for Arizona Water, they don't just go ahead and segregate one community. They actually have a huge pool from which they go ahead and set their rates on. But that report, as much as they feel that it can be questioned, anything on a report can be questioned. However, that specific item about rates being posted, not being posted, they are posted, and it is in our report. It actually has a good comparison both on sewer and water, which the communities are in them, have differential rates, and which ones do not. And you do see that both in water and wastewater facilities. And I've still got some other ones, but that one is the one that was before I forgot. So
I would like to share also, someone mentioned the recreation center. And the rates are a little bit higher outside, but they're not greatly higher. It's pretty minimal. But the reason for that is that if you live in the county, your county gets state shared revenues for you. I don't know whether, what is it, several $million that they receive for you in property taxes and well, not property taxes, revenues from the state, like vehicle license taxes and half a dozen others, I think. Income taxes and all sorts of things. So you purchase things inside the city limits of Cottonwood, and that provides, everybody shopping in Cottonwood provides 50% of the general fund budget. The rest of it is filled in by the citizens of Cottonwood through these state shared revenues, which the county gets for you. So raising the rates a teeny bit in the rec center makes sense, because otherwise Cottonwood citizens would be paying a higher amount for the use of the facility, if that makes sense. Did I explain that correctly?
To me, it sounded good. Now, whether the citizens understood it or not, I'm not sure.
Well, I'm sure that they probably don't.
Yeah, and again, it's not just the rec center, it's our recreation programs in general. If you live outside the city, there's a higher fee for for those who are outside the city versus those that live in the city.
But, you know, residents outside the city count on the city for all kinds of services. I mean, if you need a new ballpark for your children, you don't go to the Verde Village homeowners or the Verde Santa Fe homeowners associations and ask for a new ballpark for your children. You come to the city of Cottonwood, and we try to provide those services. 60% of the use of our library is outside of the city. Is that correct? And so the county gives us, it keeps going down every year, and it's going down even more this year, about 160. Is it going to be 140,000 this year?
No, I think it's, it went back up to what,
Contribution from the county?
yes, yeah, 175.
It's at about 167, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so we get that much from the county, which our citizens also pay into that district, all the citizens of Cottonwood. But we pay, it cost us close to $1 million to run our library. So, you know, when you shop in Cottonwood, you're relying on a lot of services. 12th Street is going to cost us $4 million. 12th Street's going to be used by a few Cottonwood residents. Most of the traffic on 12th Street is going to be from Verde Village residents. But we want to work, you know, we do care about you. We do a lot of things that we feel helps you, and we want to continue to be a community that works together. So if we could go ahead and move on. Any more comments from Mr. Elinsky?
I kind of mentioned at the last hearing too, and I hear it again tonight, that a lot of folks feel that this is a done deal and we've already made up our minds. And I can't speak for the rest of the council, but for me it's true. I've been looking at this for years and years, and I've said it before, I feel very confident with the decision I'm going to make. But these conversations have been going on since Cottonwood has purchased the water company, and all of the meetings have taken place in public, and there has been a lot of opportunity for folks to come in and discuss their concerns with the council. And I feel like you know, we've tried to make every opportunity available to have public comment. It is unfortunate that at the hearing that most folks show up just for the hearing, because if we had had more input earlier on, I think you'd feel differently about this process. But
the floor is closed. You've already, no, sir, it's enough now. We need to have some respect here, and that goes both ways.
So I just wanted to say, because I've been on the other side and I've seen the way council operates, and I do feel badly that you feel like this is a done deal, but I did want to say that this conversation has been going on for years and years. It's something that we have struggled with. And you know, I mean, we're getting chastised for our bond problem, but the council truly did that because we just didn't want to raise rates. Yeah, we didn't want to raise them, so we went many years for not raising them. Karen and I were both on the council and also Ruben, when we purchased the water companies, and the recommendation was to have water raises, and that was the Verde Villages. That was only those companies, Cordis Lakes. And the recommendation, Cordis Lakes, Verde Santa Fe, and not Clemenceau? What were the first three? And Clemenceau were the first three. And the recommendation was raise the rates the next year. So we've really tried to be good stewards to not raise the rates. That's why it's hard to do that. That's why we're in these kinds of circumstances with our bond companies, is that we really tried to not raise rates. We really tried to understand that people are on limited incomes. Mayors are too, you know. It's very difficult, and you know, it's, as Tim said, we've been looking at this and looking at it. Your hand is up, so go ahead.
I've got children and grandchildren that live outside the city limits, and I've spoken to them about it too. And we've all pretty much come up with, this last year I decided I had a little grassy area. I wasn't going to water something I couldn't eat. So my grandson came in from Rimrock, he tilled up my lawn, and we are now eating tomatoes. though realized I was sprinkling the tomatoes with a sprinkler, and my water bill went up 60 some odd dollars, much more than for grass. So I started hand sprinkling, and it only increased like $25. So we can also conserve ourselves. I'm on a fixed income. I am a senior. I'll be 70 years old at the end of August. And I am, my granddaughter told me I wasn't retired, I was recycled. But we can also, with the limits, I don't like it either. I'm also on a fixed income. My granddaughter's a teacher. They don't make a lot of money, but they're learning also through like a program we're having in October for 4th graders. We teach them how to conserve. We have a wet project going on that all the 4th graders in the Verde Valley, over 400 attend, that the county, the city, the state puts on for these children. And just like brushing my teeth one day, I was accused by my great-granddaughter of killing fish because I let the water run a little longer than I should have, and the fish were running out of water. But if we all get in it together, which we are in it all together, we all have the Verde River running through. We aren't on the same aquifers. Some take more arsenic removal than others. Some don't take any. Some do take longer to get. In the alley I'm in an older part of town, we had geysers all the way down the alley from 13th to 14th for a year until they got all those older pipes replaced. Now we've got water. Maybe that's my mental problem. I've been drinking Cottonwood water for 40 some odd years now. I don't buy bottled water, and we do have to use it in my husband's CPAP, but I think it's another eye-opener to all of us that water in any state, we do live in arid zona. We need to learn to take better care of it, be better stewards of it, teach our children, grandchildren, and even ourselves. I learned a lot by having a garden this year. I mean, I'm enjoying the tomatoes, but it's costing me. I could have the grass. I'm going to do tomatoes again next year because it tastes better than grass. But we really do need to be good stewards. We need to teach our kids. These 4th graders are like sponges. They found that the 4th graders are more willing, and they absorb much more of this education that we're giving them. It's a whole day out at Dead Horse State Park with multiple volunteers teaching them how to conserve and where water comes from, where it goes to. And I've been on the council for long, before the water companies were purchased. We did discuss raising the water rates, and we were told we should the first year, and then we were told we should even do it higher when we did it the last time for the villages and all. And then we've talked about it. Rudy can tell you that since we bought the water companies, I have suggested every single year that we need an increase like every other utility. Smaller increments are a whole lot easier to take than large increments. We thought we were, and we were doing the right thing because there was a lot of people out of work for a number of years here, and we bit the bullet with the bond companies. We knew our rating was going to go down. Rudy warned us, told us what was going to happen, but we decided that that was something we had to do to look after all of the people that are on our water companies. So I hope that helps just a little bit. I am a senior, I am on a fixed income, but we also need to educate ourselves and our children on anybody that comes into the valley. It's a very limited resource, and we just need to take care of it. We're not getting the rain we need right now to replenish some of our aquifers. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I just have
Mr. Dowling?
I don't usually say a lot, but I would agree. I'll just come forth and say that this has been an ongoing problem. When I first got elected, I can verify that the vice mayor said every year, raise it, we should be doing it, we should have been doing it. And I think that everybody agrees, and it's just not something anybody ever wants to do. So everybody did their best to try and do good by everybody. I do understand some concerns of the people outside the city limits. That I understand your concerns, And I heard some murmuring of, why weren't we asked, or why didn't you ask us, as far as all the meetings that took place. Well, I'm going to extend this to you right now. We meet a lot of Tuesday nights, twice a month for regular meetings. We have work sessions on another Tuesday. If we had this many people in the room every week, you guys might not be here as upset as you are right now. So, I would just extend that to everybody that, it is an important thing for everybody to be involved in. So I just, I think it's unfortunate that people only show up when it is something that directly affects them. And I think that it would just be nice, that's part of the reason I ran for the city council, was because not enough people disliked me. But I wanted to be accountable for my position. I've lived here all 42 of my years, and I owe it to my kids to be here. I owe it to, to future generations to make sure that they have water to drink. And if I have to pay a little more for it, which I'm gonna, if friends and family members of mine are gonna pay a little more, that it's unfortunate, but it is the way of the world and the way it goes. And it's unfortunate that people that it upsets anybody, and like you said, I think we're all good people, and other than situations like this, we might all get along just great. And I hope if anybody of you sees me, go ahead and talk to me. Don't be afraid to, even if you want to yell at me. It's okay, as long as you talk to me. Because if you're not talking to me, I'm not doing my job. So we're all available. All our contact information's on the internet. We're not secret. We're here in public every week. That we can be every 2 weeks, whatever the deal is. We're not secret. We're not hiding anything. We're here. No votes have been taken. You watched the vote be taken. No vote was made before you guys got here. That's not how it works. We don't do that. So I appreciate all of you coming very much.
Yes, I do too.
We all do. So are there any other comments from the council?
We'd like to go ahead and cover a couple of...
Okay, if you please cover that.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to clear up a few things. I was back there with Ryan, getting a good view of all the comments. Rudy mentioned earlier there's 7 wells in the city, 14 in the Verde villages. Yet we have 3 spots where we send water from the city back out to the Verde villages in large amounts. So our 7 wells are supplementing them. Council purchased Quail Canyon on staff's recommendation to serve Verde Village Units 6 and 7. We just finished a just under $200,000 water line that is put in solely to serve Units 6 and 7. So there's a lot of the water that goes into the Verde Villages actually comes out of the corporate limits. It doesn't work the other way around. So we're supplying the water out there. This weekend, kind of an example of a different operation between the city and the private water companies. Well 2-1, which is between Western and Prairie, went out Friday afternoon. Staff responded. We got out there. There was a couple minor pressure glitches. Pressure was down for about 10 minutes. We shifted some water around, improvements we've put out there so we can feed from one to another. By 6:30 Sunday night, we had that well up and running. I will guarantee you that wouldn't have happened under the former operators. As far as the county representatives, I know Rudy took the high road on this, and a lot of times rate committees get accused of cherry picking. We actually asked the county government to give us some names of people. We reached out and said, hey, you want to be involved in this? Send us some names. The more the merrier. Chris Moran showed up for 2 or 3 meetings, even though these meetings were scheduled well in advance, and then they weren't there. So we can extend the invitation, we can ask for them. If the county representatives don't want to respond, we can't really force them to come in there. We did try to buy the Verde Santa Fe system. We were rejected.
You were talking about wastewater.
Wastewater.
Sorry?
Wastewater
System, yes. We took a look out there, realized that the people were being overcharged. We already ran the water. The council authorized expending a study on that system. We extended an offer. We were turned down by the private owners. Verde Santa Fe did require substantial upgrades on top of everything else we're talking about here. This was a developer-designed system, not up to engineering standards. We invested close to $250,000 just in the booster station and the controls. So while we don't have the consistent leaks we have in the Verde Villages in Verde Santa Fe, we still do get leaks, but there was a lot of control and booster pumping and well, and as the mayor mentioned, the second well that we worked with the golf course to deepen. People in the city pay impact fees. They're not happy about them. $5,380 water and sewer impact fee. In the villages, in Verde Santa Fe, we charge just the water impact fee. And this was something council decided a long time ago, that they don't want our current residents, our current customers paying for the cost of growth. So we do have impact fees. As far as the dirt on the meter box, a lot of these we use what's called the touch read. We've changed these out system by system where we don't have to open the meter box up every time. It's electronic and it reads it. So the fact that somebody didn't pick a meter up, we would know if they don't read them. Roger Biggs, who's in the back of the room, gets the route walk every time. It's all computerized. We know how long from one meter to another. We know whether a meter is red or not, but a lot of these are touch reads. The other thing is, and this is kind of off topic, but I've got to get this off my chest. I was at the meeting last week when we talked about the teen center, and I don't remember council authorizing a dime for it. And where this story that we're going to spend $200,000.
The mayor's spending $200,000. The mayor's doing it, right?
Oh, so
without the council's,
yeah,
so believe everything you read in the paper, right?
Yeah. But the teen center's a long way from being a reality, and no money was authorized. In the comments that the water is undrinkable, that water meets all US EPA and ADEQ standards. Every June, we send out a consumer confidence report that shows you exactly what's in your water. Do we have high calcium, which plugs up the pads on swamp coolers? Yeah, and it's been around here since they first started pumping water. It's not something that we turned up the calcium when they came in there. So it's interesting, and I think the council is well aware of my feelings on bottled water, which is not regulated by EPA. It's regulated by Food and Drug. That is bottled water that's allowed to have a certain percentage of fecal contamination in it. It's allowed to have arsenic and lead in it, and it costs about $300 a thousand to purchase it. So if there's an issue with water, our water is tested on a regular basis. A lot of times it can be internal plumbing, it can be an old softener, it can be a lot of it. But I do take offense, because my certification's on the line here, that this water meets all standards, and people may not like the particular taste of it, but it is not undrinkable.
Mayor, I also wanted to point out one last thing here is when I started looking at some of these rates, a lot of these municipalities, I was talking to a colleague of mine from Eloy, and his rates are a lot less than our sewer rates. This is just, and ours are pretty darn low, which prompted me to start looking around. And many of our water companies and sewer facilities continue to supplement their revenues through excise tax, meaning money's coming from the general fund. In 2007, when the 1% sales tax ended, council made a conscious decision to have these become true enterprise funds, and all the money that they collect remains in the fund for its operation, its maintenance, capital, and its debt service. So when you go out and you look at a lot of these water companies and sewer companies, and their rates are extremely low, and they're relatively small especially, you have to also ask the question, is it sewer, is it user-based, user fee-based, or are you supplementing with excise tax? You'll find that a lot of these smaller companies that have real low rates are pretty much using a lot of their general fund monies to go ahead and supplement their rates. So just wanted to caution you, when you do look at other people's rates, they do fluctuate widely, and many of them are supplemented through other than user rates. Any other comments from the council? Okay.
Okay, back to the item. Water rates. So I would entertain a motion at this time.
I'll move to approve ordinance number 598.
Second.
Mr. Elinsky made the motion. Mr. Pratt seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Mr. Howdigy. Okay. So let's see. Mr. Pratt made the motion. Mr. Elinsky made the motion. Mr. Pratt seconded it with all in favor except for Mr. Howdigy. Got that for the record? Okay. Ordinance number 598. Mr. Okay, so
Read it.
Deputy Clerk, please read ordinance number 598 by title only.
Ordinance number 598, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Arizona, amending the city's municipal water system rates, fees, and charges. Madam Mayor.
Thank you. The next item is wastewater rates. Mr. Rodriguez?
Mayor and Council, I don't want to make this meeting any longer than it already is. The ordinance 599 is amending the wastewater rates, which have been extremely low since 2001. We're asking council to approve the rate to increase as shown on in the ordinance to 2625, broken down to by different categories. Administrative rate, the system is $6.60. Depreciation rate is $5.95. O&M rate per thousand is $13.70, and currently we have no debt service on the system. However, if we do acquire any type of debt service, that number will change. Total monthly residential rate is $26.25. As you may recall, our commercial rates are based on not just the administrative depreciation, but also they are based on per thousand on the O&M rate. So the more the water that commercial facilities use, their rate is higher. Residential rates, we're asking to stay at $26.25 monthly.
Questions, council? Mr. Pratt?
I'll make a motion if there's no questions.
Well, let's get, are there any members of the public? No one signed up to speak about this item, but would anybody like to speak about the wastewater item? If not, Mr. Pratt?
I move to approve ordinance number 599.
Second.
Mr. Pratt made the motion. Mr. Elinsky, or Dowling? Mr. Dowling seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Deputy Clerk, please read ordinance number 599 by title only.
Ordinance number 599, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Arizona, amending the city's wastewater system rates, fees, and charges. Madam Mayor.
Okay. Item number 8, the consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Item number 1 is approval of a 1-year renewal option with Northern Arizona Waste Systems for city facilities, waste, and recycling services. And item number 2 is approval of renewing agreements with SmartWorks Plus and Educational Services, Inc. for phased retirement services. Is there an item that anyone from the council would like to pull for discussion? Would any members of the public like to pull an item? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Mr. Dowling made the motion. Mr. Elinsky seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 9, new business. The following items are for council discussion, consideration, and possible legal action. Item 1 is resolution number 2711 and resolution number 2712, appointing members to the Parks and Recreation Commission. Mr. Faust.
Yes, Madam Mayor. City Council, in your packet this evening is information on, we have 3
individuals who have put in for 2 vacancies. And Ms. Cindy Burton is here tonight. And I don't see anybody else out there that we have. There was both, there was Leonard Filner.
I heard that he wasn't going to be able to be here tonight.
All righty. And Ann Shaw, and then also Cynthia Burton. And Cindy's here tonight, back row. And Cindy's term has expired after 3 years. And then also Timothy McKeever Sr. has, he resigned on June 17, 2013. His date of term expiration is August 16th, 2014. So we actually have 2 positions open for the council.
Okay, so at this time we'd like to ask Ms. Burton to come up and visit with the council. And we want to say thank you for your 3 years of service, and we appreciate that. So if you might share with the council how you think that you've made the Parks and Recreation Commission better in the past 3 years, and how you'll make it even better in the next 3. I'd be glad to hear what you think.
Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, Richard. I want to correct Richard. I've been on for 1 year. 1 year.
You filled 1 year of a 3-year term. So thank you for your year of service.
Thank you for allowing me. I don't know if I've made much of a difference, but I am learning more about the politics of the city and learning a lot more about how the recreation center works and issues that we've had to deal with. Calcification of the pool, the solar system, the bills, days that maybe we can't stay open because there's nobody coming in hardly. I've been enjoying it a lot. Like I said, I've just been learning a lot more about it. I would like the chance to stay on for 3 more years. I don't know if that's possible. I'm hoping so. I've been in Cottonwood for the last 10 years, Arizona native. I'm an outdoor person, and do have a membership to the recreation center. I don't get there enough, but I do enjoy going also. I think it is an asset to Cottonwood, and I just would like to continue on and try to be more of an asset to the commission and learn more about it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments, Mr. Pratt?
Yeah, I was just going to make a comment that we've kind of set a precedent that we really appreciate your service. We know it's voluntary. We've kind of set a precedent when an incumbent reapplies and they're doing a good job, we tend to reappoint them. So to my mind, reappointing Cynthia is a no-brainer.
And I'd like to just sort of add on to that, or tag team onto that also. And if you have no questions, you may be seated.
Okay.
Thank you. Ann Shaw Jenkins also served for many faithful years on our commission, and somehow we didn't follow our precedent, and she wasn't reappointed last time. And I was kind of, I just didn't think that was right. And we have an opportunity tonight to make that right again. She did a wonderful job. She was on all through the rec center planning, and she's just an amazing person. She's very tied in with our youth because she runs a teaching academy for, what is it, grades for junior high?
I think it's high school.
Okay. And so she's just would be a great member to reappoint. So I would go ahead and entertain a motion. And I would say that Mr. Fellner is an awesome person too, and I'm sorry that we can't have more positions so he could also participate, but in the future there may be opportunities. Mr. Pratt?
Then I move to approve resolution number 2711, appointing Cynthia Burton, a member of the Parks and Recreation Commission for a 3-year term. And I move to approve resolution number 2712, appointing Ann Shaw, a member of the Parks and Recreation Commission, to fill an unexpired term which ends August 16th, 2014.
And so Mr. Pratt made the motion, and I'll second it. So is there any discussion? Mr. Garrison.
This, to me, it's kind of troubling that
to do these, because these commissions are created to serve at the council's leisure, yet we don't seem to have any real interaction with the committees or the commissions, whichever case it is. And I would like to see us maybe start having some interaction with these different committees, other than when they come forward to us once or twice every 2 or 4 years to reappoint people to these committees. I'd like to, other than the committees I've actually served on, I don't really have any fundamental understanding of how they work and what they do. So it would really be a service to me if we would start to have some interaction with the different people that serve on these committees. And to me, it would make it a lot easier for me to sit up here and reappoint people when I understand the job they're doing and how they're doing it. So that was my comment.
Wait just a moment for the city manager to get back, and I'll comment on that.
Yeah, we do get a monthly report. Every month we get a report on the meetings and what's going on, and I read those, and so I know who's attending and who's participating.
And we have met with the library and the Parks and Recs, and
it's a pretty.
There's also the comments directly from each one of the commissioners or the board, the advisory board, individuals in the library. They do make comments, and I do know that council has identified that they would like to at least work with those committees. Excuse me. That's my fault. Pardon me. I know that council has indicated that they would like to meet at least once a year, so I think that that's something that definitely could continue. But I made a request maybe 4 or 5 months ago to have a meeting with the library and the Parks and Recreation Commission. So where is that? That I'm unsure of at this point. Whenever council would like to meet, that's something we probably ought to just set up at some time or another. I know there's still library questions as to certain things, and I know that they would like to address those. But I also know that there's a few questions from the Parks and Recreation Commission that they would like to ask as well.
So the city manager is here now. So the comments you missed from Mr. Garrison were that he would like to have meetings with the different commissions, which we've always done in the past. And I said that about 4 or 5 months ago I requested a meeting with the Library and Parks and Recreation Commission, and I says, where are we with that? So that's
a good question.
A good idea.
Madam Mayor, it's usually the city clerk's office who sets those up, but I can certainly look into that and see where that's at.
Okay, that would be good. So I like your idea. We've done it. It was a major thing that I did when I became mayor, and it kind of falls by the wayside. And one of the reasons is, how many meetings a month do you want?
Oh, no, I get that. It would be, I would like to have a better understanding of the people that serve on the committees and the job they're doing. And I don't think reading the minutes from the meetings they're having is going to do me justice in having that one-on-one dialogue with the people who are actually doing that job.
And I mean, sometimes our city attorney advises us not to go to meetings. Are you there, Steve? We might have lost him.
An hour ago.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Sometimes you tell us that you don't advise us to go to the meetings, but it might be, if with your permission, it might be a good idea for Mr. Garrison to attend one meeting from each committee, and that might help also.
Yes, Madam Mayor. The concern would be if either a quorum of the council was in attendance and it wasn't posted that they may be in attendance, or if a quorum of the council, either because of their attendance at the meeting or other dialogue between them, discuss the matter that may come before the council. But to the extent Mr. Garrison would like to educate himself by attending some of these commission meetings, there'd be no problem with that at all.
Okay.
And I've actually done that. I went to the Airport Commission meeting. I've been trying to fit other meetings in. I guess where I'm coming from is we have these people come to us. We had it last month. We have it again this month. And we have to appoint people to these committees. And I really don't know anything about what they do. And it seems to me it would be nicer to have a better familiarity with the people.
So we'll have lots of meetings.
Yeah.
How many do you want a month? We'll do it.
I always feel like I do know from the minutes, and because I see what they say, and I know the point of view they're expressing, so for me, it fills in and I read in between the lines.
Welcome to the open meeting tango.
But I do like your idea, and I have I have created a lot of meetings for you all in the past over this, correct?
Yeah.
It's
Joint
nice to
meetings.
sit down there
It is. I like to do it, and so we will do better to do it more often.
I know that that also, I think on the Facebook page, it also identifies and describes specifics as to the scope and duties and responsibilities of those boards and commissions and what they do, and so that is on there. And I do know that you know, as we look at each individual, I know council studies individuals specifically also before you make an appointment. And a lot of times I'll see individuals that come through and they do have previous Parks and Recreation, either through an advisory board or through a a commission or whatever. They have that on there from other communities. Those are valuable people with valuable experience. And the same thing with libraries, with education purposes. A lot of educators serve on the library board. A lot of educators have served on the Parks and Recreation Commission before also. So, as well as individuals interested in a lot of sports. So, those people definitely do. They interact, and we have some pretty good discussions at times. So,
and then I did get a call from the chair of the Parks and Recreation Commission, Doug Holz, who asked me for a joint meeting.
All right.
And so I asked him to get with you to set up an agenda.
All right.
And then I think he's just been out of town a lot.
He has been. He's been out, I think, for the last almost 2 months, up and back and forth into Colorado. So I did see Doug today, and Doug didn't mention that, but I can get with Doug also to maybe try to formulate an agenda.
It seems like he isn't as interested, but it could have been the playground equipment that we're getting, maybe that, or the play equipment in the pool that was an issue.
I think his biggest concern was, to be honest with you, was associated with the aquatics facilities and use.
Okay.
So that was one of his big ones.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and see if we can't get some of those meetings scheduled, because it is past due and past time.
That sounds good. Thank you.
And so we've had all this discussion on a motion, and I didn't ask if anyone from the public wanted to speak, and I always try to do that. I hate it when I forget once in a while. So, okay, Mr. Pratt made the motion. I seconded it. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, the next... Oh, sorry about that. Thank you. Keeping me in line here. So, Deputy Clerk, please read resolution number... Hang on just a second. Resolution number 2711 and resolution number 2712, appointing members to the Parks and Recreation Commission.
Resolution number 2711, resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, appointing Cynthia Burton, a member of the City of Cottonwood Parks and Recreation Commission, and establishing her term of office. And resolution number 2712, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, appointing Ann Shaw, a member of the City of Cottonwood Parks and Recreation Commission, and establishing her term of office. Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Council. Item number 2 is resolution number 2713, approving an intergovernmental agreement with Yavapai County for public transportation services for Yavapai County residents and approving adjustments for the Verde Village route plan and schedule. Mr. Fauster, is Bruce gonna present?
That's why
I bet you could do it with both eyes closed and hands over your ears.
Mostly hands over my ears. Basically, what it boils down to, and we've gone through the rigors of trying to get the county to approve this IGA for the services that we provide to the county residents, primarily in Verde Villages. We persevered and finally got an agreement. It was not for the amount of money that we had allocated for their local share of the services we provide. As a result, we're taking steps to reduce service to the Verde villages on the Blue Line to the point of 2 runs in the morning, 7 and 8 o'clock, and 2 runs in the evening, 4 and 5 o'clock, in order for those people that use the bus to get to and from work to be able to continue to get to and from work. That will not affect, at this point in time, the ADA services that we provide to the residents of that area. It was felt that to do so would put an undue burden on those residents because they have no other form of transportation. Most of them cannot use the services of, say, Verde Valley Caregivers Coalition, and they can't afford taxis. So we're it for a lot of those residents.
And for paratransit, that covers the hospital, doctors, shopping, other things that they need to do. It covers all of their needs that they would have.
Pretty much everything that they need to do. Okay. We provide a lot of services for folks for dialysis 3 days a week. You know, shopping trips, beauty parlors, everything that most of us tend to take for granted. A lot of these folks have no other options. So it's a very needed service with the ADA folks, and we're happy to provide it. I think in the packets I included a map of how the route is going to look. The middle part of the day we're adjusting it, and we're creating what we call the yellow route, because we seem to have a color scheme going here. The yellow route will take up some of the route that was formerly the circulator. So we're going to go out as far as the Verde Valley Manor, and then come up past Mingus High School, where we have a current bus stop that we're not using. Go down Camino Real to Elm, where we also have another bus stop that we're not currently using. And then go down 12th Street, hopefully when it finally gets redone, past Christian Care, where a number of residents are using our ADA service, but if we stop there like the bus used to, they'd be happy to jump on the fixed route bus. So we're trying to take some of those things into consideration as we're doing this change to the Blue Line.
So the Verde Valley Manor, I mean, it's in the city anyway, so we'd be servicing that no matter what.
That's correct.
So would anybody like bring their person and drop them off at the manor, and not, basically if they're in the car, they're just going to go ahead and go to town?
I think that mostly that's probably the case. I know we had a lot of people walking to our bus stops from various parts of the Verde villages, especially on the Blue Line. What they're going to do now, I don't know. I would imagine that they would try to get there in the early morning, in the late afternoon, in order to catch the bus. But again, I don't know at this point in time.
So I was reading, we need to do, like, have the hearing and all of that before this takes place?
I checked with ADOT, and part of that is this meeting itself.
Okay.
Because it is a public forum, and it was announced. I don't particularly have to have a public meeting just to talk about that subject. However, we will be having a public meeting because of the other changes to the route system that I'm working on right now to better serve the community. We're making some route changes, so which I don't have ready yet. I'll get there.
I'm surprised then that there aren't more people here. Usually the bus, an item about the bus brings in a whole room full.
Generally it will, and I imagine when we have the other route changes, we'll have plenty of people to discuss it.
So maybe we just weren't as impacted by Verde villages because not as many people were riding?
Well, I don't think I want to say that, because I know that we were doing close to 1,000 rides a day or a month.
Yeah, I was reading 800 and some, yeah.
between paratransit and the fixed route.
800 is a lot of trips.
They did do a lot of trips, and a lot of the people were coming in to do most of their shopping, primarily at Walmart and Fry's and Safeway. Not that any of the other stores weren't getting people in, but that was primarily what they were doing. Plus coming in for doctor's appointments and that sort of thing. So there were a lot of trips being taken.
So,
a lot of necessary things.
So those 800 trips, or 850 or 70, whatever it was, I thought that, most of the people doing the doctors and that sort of thing would have been paratransit.
Not necessarily.
A lot of them were just riding the regular bus, okay.
Absolutely.
So that is going to impact them.
That will impact them quite a bit.
So will they be able to use the caregivers? Was that was in discussion?
It's unlikely the caregivers are going to be able to make up that kind of an influx. They are already dealing with 60 to 70 people a month added to their already overworked staff.
Yes.
And so it's unlikely that they're going to be able to pick it up.
Yeah, if there are any volunteers who would like to help the Verde Valley caregivers, they could really, they serve a lot of people in this area.
They do.
With not very many volunteers.
And if you ask Kent Ellsworth, he would tell you we need volunteers.
They just presented to the college, and they're trying to get college students involved in service learning to help them out. I just want to say that I think this is a great agreement. I know it was a long, arduous process, and you really stepped forward with, I would like to say, limited county cooperation to continue to serve the people out there. And I think you've done a great job on working this out.
Well, I appreciate that. It took some effort to come up with a plan from the transit side to not just cut them off completely, and to make sure that those that needed at least to get into work and back home, we could take care of them. And then
once again, Cottonwood serves people in the greater Verde Valley, not just in the city of Cottonwood. And I don't think we get enough credit for that all the time, but
the fact that we take our bus outside of the city limits, we wouldn't have to.
Right. So folks, we do serve you outside of the city limits of Cottonwood.
And we're happy to do so.
Yes.
So, and I liked all the formula stuff that I read, and that you had to take into account not only, you had to fit within the $20,000, you had to fit all the future capital expenses. So to try to figure that all out, gosh, that must have been difficult. It gave you 1 or 2 headaches, probably.
More than 1 or 2.
So thank you. We appreciate the time that you spent to give the best service we can for the $20,000 that we're receiving. And I think you did that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Did I see a hand up over here for a comment or a discussion?
I think Mr. Osher was raising.
Okay, Mr. Osher?
Just a quick question. What is the impact?
We need you to speak into the microphone.
Osher, infamous Mr. Osher.
Yes.
What is the impact of the Verde Valley caregivers on the bus? Are they taking up some of the need for transportation? Is that their particular value?
Yes, they will, in a lot of cases, we almost act as a substitute for them because of the number of people they serve here in Cottonwood and in the greater Verde Valley. We've been having discussions with them how we can better interface, when they have opportunities to use our services to provide rides for some of their clients, then we're working on ways to better communicate that so that we can be a better service to them and they can provide better service to the rest of the people outside town.
Usually caregivers provide their transportation of their own accord as part of the volunteer. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, let's see.
I'll move to approve the IGA with the county for transit services to the Verde Village.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Garrison made the motion, the vice mayor seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Deputy Clerk, please read resolution number 2713 by title only.
Resolution number 2713, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, approving an intergovernmental agreement with Yavapai County for public transportation services for Yavapai County residents. Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Item number 3 under new business is award of bid for a wastewater treatment plant headworks odor control system. Mr. Biggs.
Madam Mayor, Council, this evening, if you would consider awarding bid to Plasma Air Incorporated in the amount of $84,200. This is for a unit to be installed in the headworks that would neutralize the hydrogen sulfide gas that's a byproduct of the influent that flows up there. This is an acidic gas that eventually will destroy the structure, destroy the equipment inside. It makes it hard for the employees to work in there. And all around, it's a very unpleasant place to be. The unit from Plasma Air Incorporated is a cold plasma ion unit, and the benefits, it improves the life of the equipment, it improves the life of the structure, it makes it a safer place for the employees to work, and the bid was $79,200. There was an add alternate of $5,000. That's for an additional air mover, and that's about it. Plasma Air was the sole respondent to the request for bids. And the council has any questions?
No-brainer?
I think it's a no-brainer. That was my comment.
I beat him to it.
That's good.
Any questions by the council? Any comments by the public? I entertain a motion, Mr. Pratt.
I move to award the wastewater treatment plant headworks odor control bid to Plasma Air in the amount of $84,200, including the add alternate amount of $5,000.
Second. So Mr. Pratt made the motion, the vice mayor seconded it first. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Got another item here. I just wanted to say, Bruce, I was saying 800 and some, and you were saying 1,000, but I was only counting the blue route. I wasn't counting the paratransit. So with that number, you were correct. Okay, award of bid for a wastewater treatment plant is, award of bid for sanitary sewer and storm sewer cleaning and televising services.
Madam Mayor, Council, this evening, if you could please consider awarding a bid to Hoffman Southwest Corporation doing business as Professional Pipe Services. This is for cleaning and televising of about 50 miles of sewer main lines and about 2,500 linear feet of corrugated storm drain, as well as culverts, catch basins, manholes, lift stations, process basins up at the plant. It's kind of an all-inclusive sort of thing. Hoffman Southwest or Professional Pipe Services rates are $160 per hour for cleaning and $140 an hour for televising, which are actually better rates than this go around than we've had from them in the past. Cleaning program is a very proactive thing. This is a hidden infrastructure. If you can't see it, you can't repair it. And when it fails, it kind of catches you off guard. So this is a good way to be proactive about things. Professional Pipe Services was the low bidder at $160 and $140 an hour. Pipeline Video Inspection was a second bidder at $220.63 and $215 for televising. Both bids were checked and found to be in compliance with the city's purchasing policies. And any questions?
I think we have 2 in a row. No brainers.
So we're going to televise those. Can we get them like on the public network channel?
It's very exciting. It really is.
It's extremely exciting. If you come up, I'll give you...
I've actually seen some of the pictures. It's pretty interesting that they can actually inspect the inside of those pipes that way.
We could cut it through council meeting.
Very moving.
The interesting things that we have found in the pipes.
Yeah.
So any comments from the public on this item? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to award sanitary sewer and separate storm sewer cleaning and televising bid to Hoffman Southwest Corporation, DBA Professional Pipe Services, at the rate of $160 per hour for cleaning and $140 per hour for televising those dirty films.
Second.
Mr. Elinsky made the motion. Mr. Pratt seconded it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I move to pay the claims and adjustments.
Second.
The mayor made the motion. The vice mayor seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I move to adjourn.
Second.
The mayor made the motion. Councilmember Garrison seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
It's as bad as